He then attacked him, striking the blow that fractured the skull. "Has any weapon been found about with which he could have given such a blow?" "No, nor has anything of the kind been discovered on Wynne's person. That fact is decidedly in his favour." "What about the marks on the rocks?" I asked. "It is possible that Wynne may have made them in order to divert suspicion by making people think that Pritchard must have fallen and so killed himself." The holders of this theory base their belief on the absolute want of cause for Pritchard's trying to scale the rock. The whole thing is the most absolute enigma. Some of the country folk have declared that the tunnel is haunted, and there certainly has been a rumour current among them for years. That Pritchard saw some apparition and in wild terror sought to escape it from climbing the rocks is another theory, but only the most imaginative hold it. "Well, it is a most extraordinary case," I replied. "Yes, Mr. Bell, and I should like to get your opinion of it. Do you see your way to elucidate the mystery?" "Not at present, but I shall be happy to investigate the matter to my utmost ability." "But you do not wish to leave London at present?" "That is so, but a matter of such importance cannot be set aside. It appears, from what you say, that Wynne's life hangs more or less on my being able to clear away the mystery?" "That is indeed the case. There ought not to be a single stone left unturned to get at the truth for the sake of Wynne. Well, Mr. Bell, what do you propose to do?" "To see the place without delay," I answered. "That is right. When can you come?" "Whenever you please." "Will you come to Felwyn with me tomorrow? I shall leave Paddington by the 7:10, and if you will be my guest I shall be only too pleased to put you up." "That arrangement will suit me admirably," I replied. "I will meet you by the train you mention, and the affair shall have my best attention." "Thank you," he said, rising. He shook hands with me and took his leave. The next day I met Bainbridge at Paddington Station, and we were soon flying westward in the luxurious private compartment that had been reserved for him. I could see by his abstracted manner and his long lapses of silence that the mysterious affair at Felwyn Tunnel was occupying all his thoughts. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the train slowed down at the little station of Felwyn. The station master was at the door in an instant to receive us. "I have some terribly bad news for you, sir," he said, turning to Bainbridge as we alighted. "And yet in one sense it is a relief, for it seems to clear Wynne." "What do you mean?" cried Bainbridge. "Bad news? Speak out at once." "Well, sir, it is this. There has been another death at Felwyn's signal box. John Davidson, who was on duty last night, was found dead at an early hour this morning in the very same place where we found poor Pritchard." "Good God!" cried Bainbridge, starting back. "What an awful thing! What in the name of heaven does it mean, Mr. Bell? This is too fearful. Thank goodness you have come down with us." "It is as black a business as I ever heard of, sir," echoed the station master. "And what we are to do I don't know. Poor Davidson was found dead this morning, and there was neither a mark nor sign of what killed him. That is the extraordinary part of it. There's a perfect panic abroad, and not a signalman on the line will take duty tonight. I was quite in despair, and was afraid at one time that the line would have to be closed, but at last it occurred to me to wire to Lytton Vale, and they are sending down an inspector. I expect him by a special every moment. I believe this is he coming now," added the station master, looking up the line. There was the sound of a whistle down the valley, and in a few moments a single engine shot into the station, and an official in uniform stepped onto the platform. "Good evening, sir," he said, touching his cap to Bainbridge. "I have just been sent down to inquire into this affair at the Felwyn Tunnel, and though it seems more of a matter for a Scotland Yard detective than one of ourselves, there was nothing for it but to come. All the same, Mr. Bainbridge, I cannot say that I look forward to spending tonight alone at the place." "You wish for the services of a detective, but you shall have someone better," said Bainbridge, turning towards me. "This gentleman, Mr. John Bell, is the man of all others for our business. I have just brought him down from London for the purpose." An expression of relief flitted across the inspector's face. "I am very glad to see you, sir," he said to me, "and I hope you will be able to spend the night with me in the signal box. I must say, I don't relish the idea of tackling the thing single-handed, but with your help, sir, I think we ought to get to the bottom of it somehow. I am afraid there is not a man on the line who will take duty until we do, so it is most important that the thing should be cleared and without delay." I readily assented to the inspector's proposition, and Bainbridge and I arranged that we should call for him at 4 o'clock at the village inn and drive him to the tunnel. We then stepped into the wagonette which was waiting for us and drove to Bainbridge's house. Mrs. Bainbridge came out to meet us and was full of the tragedy. Two pretty girls also ran to greet their father and to glance inquisitively at me. I could see that the entire family was in a state of much excitement. "Lucy Ray has just left, father," said the elder of the girls. "We had much trouble to soothe her. She is in a frantic state." "You have heard, Mr. Bell, all about this dreadful mystery?" said Mrs. Bainbridge as she led me towards the dining room. "Yes," I answered. "Your husband has been good enough to give me every particular." "And you have really come here to help us?" "I hope I may be able to discover the cause," I answered. "It certainly seems most extraordinary," continued Mrs. Bainbridge. "My dear," she continued, turning to her husband, "you can easily imagine the state we were all in this morning when the news of the second death was brought to us." "For my part," said Ella Bainbridge, "I am sure that Felwyn Tunnel is haunted. The villagers have thought so for a long time, and this second death seems to prove it, does it not?" Here she looked anxiously at me. "I can offer no opinion," I replied, "until I have sifted the matter thoroughly." "Come, Ella, don't worry Mr. Bell," said her father. "If he is as hungry as I am, he must want his lunch." We then seated ourselves at the table and commenced the meal. Bainbridge, although he professed to be hungry, was in such a state of excitement that he could scarcely eat. Immediately after lunch he left me to the care of his family and went into the village. "It's just like him," said Mrs. Bainbridge. "He takes these sort of things to heart dreadfully. He is terribly upset about Lucy Ray, and also about the poor fellow Wynne. It is certainly a fearful tragedy from first to last." "Well, at any rate," I said, "this fresh death will upset the evidence against Wynne." "I hope so, and there is some satisfaction in the fact. Well, Mr. Bell, I see you have finished lunch. Will you come into the drawing room?" I followed her into a pleasant room overlooking the valley of the Lytton. By and by Bainbridge returned, and soon afterwards the dog cart came to the door. My host and I mounted, Bainbridge took the reins, and we started off at a brisk pace. "Matters get worse and worse," he said the moment we were alone. "If you don't clear things up tonight, Bell, I say frankly that I cannot imagine what will happen." We entered the village, and as we rattled down the ill-paved streets I was greeted with curious glances on all sides. The people were standing about in groups, evidently talking about the tragedy and nothing else. Suddenly, as our trap bumped noisily over the paving stones, a girl darted out one of the houses and made frantic motions for Bainbridge to stop the horse. He pulled the mare nearly up on her haunches, and the girl came up to the side of the dog cart. "You have heard it," she said, speaking eagerly and in a gasping voice. "The death which occurred this morning will clear Stephen Wynne, won't it, Mr. Bainbridge? It will, you are sure, are you not?" "It looks like it, Lucy, my poor girl," he answered. "But then the whole thing is so terrible that I scarcely know what to think." She was a pretty girl with dark eyes, and under ordinary circumstances must have had the vivacious expression of face and the brilliant complexion which so many of her countrywomen possess. But now her eyes were swollen with weeping, and her complexion more or less disfigured by the agony that she had gone through. She looked piteously at Bainbridge, her lips trembling. The next moment she burst into tears. "Come away, Lucy," said a woman who had followed her out of the cottage. "Fie, for shame! Don't trouble the gentleman. Come back and stay quiet." "I can't, mother, I can't," said the unfortunate girl. "If they hang him, I'll go clean off my head. Oh, Mr. Bainbridge, do say that the second death has cleared him." "I have every hope that it will do so, Lucy," said Bainbridge. "But now don't keep us, there's a good girl. Go back into the house. This gentleman has come down from London on purpose to look into the whole matter. I may have good news for you in the morning." The girl raised her eyes to my face with a look of intense pleading. "Oh, I have been cruel and a fool, and I deserve everything," she gasped. "But, sir, for the love of heaven, try to clear him." I promised to do my best. Bainbridge touched up the mare, she bounded forward, and Lucy disappeared into the cottage with her mother. The next moment we drew up at the inn where the inspector was waiting, and soon afterwards were bowling along between the high banks of the country lanes to the tunnel. It was a cold, still afternoon. The air was wonderfully keen, for a sharp frost had held the countryside in its grip for the last 2 days. The sun was just tipping the hills to westward when the